In it comes. There goes the shot on goal. It's in. It's in. Jamie Dwyer.
Heavy lifting. Goes up to Graham. Takes the lead. Looks a winner. Draws away from...
The Australians have just broken the American stranglehold on this race.
Now, with our past Olympians, I'd usually rattle off their CV and achievements in the sport, but for our aspiring Olympians, it's a little bit harder, especially for the younger ones. But even still, despite being just 26 years old, my next guest has already developed some impressive accomplishments. He's a two-time Commonwealth Games gold medalist. He won the bronze medal at last year's World Championships. He's already a dual Olympian, competing at Rio as a 19-year-old. And he's Australia's best current pole vaulter, and he is hell-bent on a medal in Paris. But it's the attitude, outlook, and ambition of this guy, which I think is going to blow you away. And we'll keep you listening to him and watching him for years to come. Kurtis Marschall, thanks for joining me.
So, Mark, how are you?
I'm well. Now, out of all of the questions I'm going to ask you today, I'm going to start with this rogue question. You fling yourself basically 6 meters up into the air. What's the moment like when you clear the bar and you're free falling to the ground?
Yeah, well, basically 6 meters. I'm still 5 centimeters off.
I said basically 6 meters. You're almost there.
Yeah, I'm very close. Hopefully very soon. But yeah, the falling back to earth basically after I jump a bar is a pretty cool feeling. Like you've almost got enough time in there to work out, okay, what's my celebration going to be when I clear the bar? But it's a really cool feeling of just like everything coming together. It's because you're not really thinking about much, or your brain's just such a fuzz when you're trying to complete the vault. But once you finish and once you've let go of the pole and you've cleared the bar, then your brain almost switches back on and you just go, wow, that felt amazing. I'm falling 6 meters in the air. Like it's an awesome feeling. And then you land on the mat. It's a pretty heavy thud. Yeah. If you don't land like properly, sometimes you can like bottom out from that kind of height. But yeah, it's a pretty cool feeling when you land on the mat. Everyone's cheering, everyone's going crazy. You have to try and get up on this squishy mat. Sometimes I'll fall back over. Some people will like screw it up, but yeah, it's an awesome feeling falling back to earth after jumping 6 meters. It's pretty sick.
It just looks unreal, and especially when you've cleared a monumental height. I've seen, I just remember watching Nina last year when she'd cleared her, and she knew she was in with a gold medal, and like she's falling back to earth, and like you can already see the excitement on her face as she's falling, and
she
like
starts welling up, basically straight away, which is amazing because it's such a emotional thing, emotional feeling after like knowing you've gone through so much to just like execute the perfect jump. You almost know that you're going to clear it as soon as you leave the ground because you just have like the connection with the pole.
Wow.
You feel the jump straight away and you're like, yep, I've got this. And Nina is such an emotional girl and you can really see it when she jumps and like, straight away she was just like, yes.
Well, we'll cover all those aspects, Kurtis. You mentioned like perfection, like the pursuit of perfection. You mentioned the emotion of this journey. We're going to cover it all.
Cool.
But let this be my public service announcement for anybody listening, because Kurtis is somebody we want to watch closely heading to Paris. For our listeners who aren't as familiar with you, can you please confirm the following? Just a true or false is fine, I think.
Yep.
Yeah?
Okay, sure.
26 years old.
True.
Great. Born in South Australia, but you're now a West Aussie. No arguments. Kurtis.
True.
No,
True.
that's all right.
Yeah.
PB of 5.95, which would have earned a medal at the previous Olympics.
True.
Hey.
Yeah.
He's hell-bent on a medal in Paris.
Truth.
Love that.
Yeah.
You've grown more humble with age. You've become slightly more humble as you've got older.
True. You should have met me after 2016.
Great, because that's exactly where this is going, Kurtis. Perhaps when you were younger, you weren't afraid to use your Olympic tattoo to your advantage quite freely.
True.
There was a time subsequently named the Unbearable post-Rio Kurtis era.
Oh, shit. Yep, that's true.
Wow. Okay, great.
Yeah.
We're going to talk more about this.
No, we're not.
Kurtis, collab opportunities came your way. You're proud of every collab you've ever done.
Can't recall any recent collabs that I have done.
No recent collabs. Okay. All right. Well, let's get more specific, Kurtis. You don't mind whacking on a pair of budgie smugglers and dancing in a manner which can only be described as confronting.
It was traumatic, yeah. True.
Kurtis, as I was preparing for this interview, right, I've reached out to your coach, Paul Burgess, and I said, hey, like, I've met with Kurtis. Like, I like, he's told me, all these things about pole vault. We're going to have this great chat, but can you tell me some stuff that he wouldn't have told me? And Budge goes, yeah, man, you've got to see this video of Kurtis dancing in this promotional collab for Revo Sport or something. And I was like, okay, this is weird, but I'll have a look.
Yep.
It was hard to find, but I got it. And I wish I didn't.
Yeah, same. I wish that wasn't on the internet for everyone to see. But yeah, I've done some stuff that I may or may not regret.
We'll put that as a false then, because I think I asked if you're proud of every collab you've done. It's for those, look, people are going to watch it now. It's Kurtis in Budgie Smugglers doing these rogue dances.
Yeah, it's pretty obnoxious. And the problem is with that specific thing was I was like, yep, I'm more than willing and open to do a Budgie Smuggler shoot. Yep, fine. Take some photos, whatever.
Sure.
They had me for like an hour. And then the girl there that was doing the like choreographing or whatever, she wanted me to do some TikTok kind of style videos.
Okay.
One of them, first one was like pretty tame. It was like, yep, go down to the beach and just we'll walk up Scarborough Beach and like work out at what point budgies become undies. And I was like, yep, fine, whatever. I'll do that. Do like this like outfit of the day thing. And then the final one was like, go down there on the beach and just dance and we'll just film you dancing. And there's like this thing that we want to chop up. And so it was like, okay, just go out there and dance in your budgies to this beat. And like, there was no music playing, just kind of make it up as you go. People everywhere on the beach watching. So embarrassed, but yeah.
So there were people around watching this.
Yeah, mate, it was like middle of the day, like beautiful day at Scarborough and like people were around. So yeah, go check it out.
Absolutely. If do yourself a favor. It's confronting. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Look, before I get into the serious stuff, can you tell me about, I've been told about the quote, unbearable post Rio Kurtis era.
Yeah.
Apparently it was a term coined by one of your best mates.
My best mate, Ollie. Yeah, he's freaking come up with this post Rio Kurt thing, which, yeah, I'm not exactly proud of. Came back from the Olympics, freaking thought I was the king of the world. 2016, I was 19 at the time. Pretty much got straight off the plane and went to the tattoo artist. Got the tattoo on my ribs. And this is the Olympics where Kyle Chalmers like actually properly became a superstar. And I was like from the same town. He was like gold medalist. So I was like, fuck yeah, I'm the same age. I'm just as good as him. Nah, I was not even close. And like didn't even make the final. No one knew what pole vaulting was. No one even watched me. And I came home thinking I was the king. And I was young and arrogant and a bit of an idiot at the time. Thought I was too big for my shoes. And my mate Ollie was hanging around with me. We went out partying and stuff. And I abused my Olympian title at the time a little bit too much, and it still haunts me to this day.
What are we talking? I've got this image. You're out. You're mingling, and then suddenly the shirt comes up. Hey, check out my tattoo.
It's
tell me that didn't happen.
I reluctantly didn't take my shirt off too much, but there was this instance. We were in a club in Adelaide. We were partying, and then one of my mates was like, "Hey," to the DJ, told him like, "Hey, my mate just got back from the Olympics," and then he just shouts it on the microphone. We've got an Olympian in the house, and I had to go up on stage and say hello, and then I like jumped over the MC. It was so weird. And then they were like, prove it. So I like ripped off my shirt, got the tattoo there. And I was like, yeah, that's probably the lowest of lows.
It's all
at the time I was loving it. So
I need to speak to Ollie, I reckon.
We've come a long way, yeah.
I wish I found out earlier about Ollie.
Yeah, Ollie's got some
sounds like he's
juice on me.
Yeah, I bet he does.
Yeah.
It concerns me, Kurtis, that you're a role model. No, I'm joking. I mean, it is really important. Well, the important thing about speaking to somebody like yourself is that you are a modern day role model. And I'm glad that we've come a long way since those days of 19 years old. Rightly or wrongly, kids look up to people who have a ton of followers. They're on the TV. They're someone who is, in inverted commas, famous, right? That's what kids are looking at these days.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a role model?
Well, so like for the athletics community, I definitely think that I would be one of the guys that some people look up to. Yeah. 2016, Kurtis is not a role model. Don't look up to that guy. And I think back to then where I was like getting asked to do talking gigs and getting asked to talk to little aspiring young little athletes or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what I was talking about. I was just so young and dumb, even though I'd made the Olympic Games, which is the pinnacle of athletics and sport.
Yeah.
Like I was like so immature. I made it basically just because I stuck at the sport for a while. I got kind of good. I got kind of lucky. My coach was really good at the time, and I just scraped into the Olympic team like the week before the cutoff, jumped the qualifying height of 570 and just went and just like, yeah, all my mates around me at the time were so supportive of everything and they thought it was like the most amazing thing. So that's maybe where and my family were like, wow. And I was like, always going to get the Olympic tattoo. Didn't think it was going to be that early though.
Yeah.
But now after, the last 2 Olympic Games, multiple World Championships, Commonwealth Games, I feel like I've come a long way in my career and like, finally only now realizing what a mature athlete kind of looks like and because I was giving advice when I was 19 to people about what I thought you should be doing in training stuff. And now looking back, I'm like, mate, you shouldn't have said anything. You were just a young, ignorant kid at the time who just got lucky and got on a team. But now I feel like I'm in more of a position after years and years of experience, highs and lows, and working with multitude of different people and just like absorbing the wisdom off them. So I feel like maybe now I could give a little bit of advice, but still not even. So much more to learn.
It's really cool. So I wasn't actually going to put this in. It's really cool that you say this. Whilst I did ask your coach and Nina Kennedy, who's one of your training partners, I asked them for dirt on you because I know a fair bit about your story.
Yeah.
They both mentioned before they proceeded. Well, Nina didn't even give me dirt. I'm going to have a chat to her about that. But before they proceeded to give you dirt, they both said that you are very humble. You've grown humble. Nina actually said that the things, because I asked what annoys you about Kurtis, and she goes, the things that used to annoy me about him are now what I love about him. And he's grown so much. So, without going into the specifics about the things they said, they've both mentioned this journey of growth. Is that exactly, I mean, you're only 26, right? You're still young, but do you already feel that you've grown a lot?
Yeah, hugely. Yeah. I think I've just been humbled by my experiences that I've had. Like I've gone from being this awesome teenager, experienced a lot of success, getting knocked back down by injury, getting knocked back down by my fellow competitors.
Yeah.
Being told some raw truths about what they kind of think and what my training partners around me thought about me and what they feel like I could improve. And yeah, it's been quite a humbling road. I think I started out pretty arrogant in the sport, to be honest. And then now, after all these experiences, I feel like I'm the kind of person that does learn from mistakes. Unfortunately, it takes me some time. But yeah, over this road of success, failure, injury, all that sort of stuff, it's brought me to this point now where I feel like I've just learned so much from all the people around me, my coach and Nina as well. And they probably have seen my progression over the last few years because I've been basically living in their pockets over the last few years and they know me pretty well. So yeah, going from this place to where I am now is pretty cool and it's good feeling and it's good. It's really nice hearing that from them about me. So
it was, it was awesome for me to hear. Like you could hear the passion. And I think for me, this whole series and speaking with somebody like you, I've been really, really looking forward to this because the things we can talk about transcend sport. Like, yes, you're an elite pole vaulter, but the things that you will talk about today are really important for like, I have a passion in, helping people grow and learn, especially kids.
Yeah.
And as a young bloke, for you to say, well, unfortunately, I need to learn from mistakes. Like, I guess it's unfortunate that mistakes happen, but, the importance of learning from them, whether it's pole vault, whether it's your arrogance as a 19-year-old, whether it's, a kid stuffing up at school, learning from our mistakes, it seems to have been ingrained in you.
Yeah, it's a huge learning process, I think, like any endeavor by any person. It's just like this path of growth that I feel like everyone needs to experience. My way is maybe different to other people, but other people might get kicked into water by like watching a sport doco or being inspired by someone. Mine was by experiencing like the lows of lows in this sport. Like I had a few injuries in my time. I no-hided in the Olympic final in 2021. I've been through the worst of the worst in pole vaulting, but I feel like learning from that is the huge key, and not letting it bog you down and not letting it like absorb you and consume you. And then just obviously like getting back on the horse is one thing, but also with that in the back of your mind, thinking like, I don't want to be that guy again. I want to do everything that I can possible and get the team around me to make sure that I can go to that next level.
It's like not ignoring it, but like living with it.
Yeah.
And being better.
Accepting it, acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Being comfortable with failure, I think is so huge in any elite environment with like business, sport, whatever. If you fail at something, it's almost going to, if you deal with it the right way and you accept that it was a failure and acknowledge it and just push past it.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing to be able to do in sport. And I feel like that's how I got to the position I am. Yeah.
That's honestly a really powerful message. You said in the elite environment, I take away the elite. I think it's in any environment, learning to be comfortable with that. Look, we're going to talk about a lot of those concepts, but I want to start with your sport. To the once every 4 year followers, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, because that's where a lot of people get to watch is the Olympic Games. Pole vault looks like a lot of fun, but tell me, how hard is the event?
It's a brutal event, man. Like it's wild. It you may have all the talent in the world, all the God's gifts, like speed, strength, agility, everything. But pole vaulting will humble you immediately. It's like if you don't have the gumption to run at a bar with a pole at like 100% and take off and willing to like put your body on the line every single jump, you won't be able to do it. No matter how talented or amazing you are, it's pretty humbling. And so it's a pretty cool sport to be a part of.
Yeah.
And like there's lots of prodigies that come up, jump really high in high school, similar to me, or like, and then get into like the elite scene and never really make it because they don't have that extra little bit of, you almost have to be a little bit crazy to do this sport, I think. And so
That's wild.
You can get to a certain point with talent and work, but you almost have to be a little bit of a nutter to be able to do
right.
this. Yeah.
Well,
So-
I mean, you're flinging yourself 5 meters 95 in the air. Like that is nuts.
It is nuts. And so I love this sport so much. It's so wild and it's so hard.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm only just learning the ropes now, even now after 14 years in the sport and starting when I was 12. Like, I feel like I've come a long way, but I've only just scratched the surface. Like it's wild.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's so much more learning to do. I'm so excited for the next few years. And the last few have just been so crazy that we got to the point where we are of 595, but I feel like there's so much more in the tank, which is pretty sick.
That's unreal. Yeah. Oh, that's exciting for everyone, I reckon.
Cool.
What drew you to the sport?
Well, to be honest, like I said, I've been in it 14 years, but that's basically just me putting in the time and the work and learning and all that sort of stuff. And so I was never like really an amazing athlete. I had a few of the tools. Like I was kind of tall when I finally started getting into it. I think I had like a growth spurt at like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
I wasn't the tallest when I was young, so I was never really like a great sprinter, jumper, hurdler, thrower. I'm skinny, so like I didn't really have all of the, like necessities to make it in like a long jump or a high jump or a sprinting.
Yeah, okay.
And so I was playing footy at the time as well. I was playing AFL just for like my local club, school. I got into the West Adelaide development squad when I was like 15, and then it kind of got to the point where the season started to overlap and I had to make a decision. Is it going to be athletics or is it going to be footy?
Yeah, right.
And I loved the team environment in footy. Like it's the best thing. I love watching it to this day. Like it's unreal up that Lake Crows. But I made the decision of sticking with pole vaulting because I started that when I was about 12. And so had a couple of years under my belt before I could decide like what I should specialize in. I just stuck at it. I had a pretty good coach from the start. He taught me like the technique from the beginning. It's like a tedious, long process to become good at pole vaulting. And the first session, you don't really even bend a pole. You just stiff pole.
Yeah.
And my coach at the time said, if you can jump your head high on your first day, you're going to be great. And so I think first day I jumped like 1.80 meters.
Hey.
And so that was sick.
How
And
good.
I was like, hell yeah, this is fun as. But like I still wasn't even that good at it. And I just stuck at it for years and then just decided, look, this might be my calling. And if you stick at something for 14 years, you get pretty good at it.
That's probably a pretty good mantra.
Yeah.
What about the strawberry blonde locks of Steve Hooker? Did they play any role in
They
your journey?
did. Yeah, definitely. So like when I was doing little athletics and footy at the time, I was obsessed with like all the idols of the footy game and all the icons, and then athletics icons of the time as well. And one of them was Steve Hooker going into the 2008 Olympics. And I remember my parents waking me up because I think it was like Beijing time, which is very similar to like Adelaide time or Australia time. So it was like late in the evening. I'd already gone to sleep and then my parents woke me up and they were like, Steve's going for gold.
Oh, no way.
And so I went out into the lounge room, watched the TV and watched him clear 590 to win. And I was like, wow, that is amazing. And then he went on and jumped 96 to get an Olympic record and just shove it in the face of the Russian, just go like, yep, I'm the guy. And I was like, he is the guy. He is him. Steve Hooker is him. And so I was like, at the time I was young. I think I was, maybe 11 or something, 12.
2008.
Yeah, 2008. And I was like, I want to give that a crack.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't done it in little athletics before. You don't do pole vaulting in little athletics. So I went to this come and try session with the coach in Adelaide at the time. He said, if you can jump head high, do it. And I did. And then I stuck at it ever since. And I just grew the love from just experimenting and playing and sticking at it and gradually achieving success. So like there's not that many pole vaulters in Australia. And so I got pretty good pretty quick relative to the rest of the country. Whereas sprinting, it's so hard. Like there's so many people that want to be a sprinter or a long jumper. And I just didn't have the toolkit. I wasn't that good. And I just managed to merge it all into pole vault. I was okay at everything.
Yeah.
I'd always maybe come like third or fourth at state champs in something. So I made state champs, but wasn't amazing at one or the other. So just stuck at it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pardon me. You were a successful junior. You sort of burst onto the sport and you found your way to Eugene for the World Junior Champs. I think that's where you met my mother.
Yeah, met your mum for the first time.
Who was a coach on the team.
Yeah.
Did she ever have to tell you off?
I was a bit of a rascal when I was young. Yeah, like
that's what I wanted to know.
Like this whole thing of like my development. I feel like from being in the sport this whole time, but I've come along in leaps and bounds. Like when I was, 16 or 17 on that trip with your mum to Eugene, I thought it was the best thing ever. I thought I was like top of the world. Went there, got pretty humbled pretty quick because I was the younger age of the World Junior Championships. You can be under 20. So there were 19-year-olds and I was 17.
Wow.
And I didn't make the final. So pole vaulting, there's a qualifying and a final at a major championship. And that World Junior Champs, I jumped 5 meters but missed out on the final. And so sat there in the crowd watching the final when I was 17, watching all these guys go ahead and jump 550, 555. I think they jumped to get medals. And I was like, okay, how can I bridge this gap in the next 2 years? Wow. So that was a pretty cool experience for me. It was my first time. And then, your mum was on the trip and she was probably trying to keep me in line the whole time. But
you know what's ridiculous, Kurtis, is all these people I've asked to try and give me some dirt on you. Even mum was like, no, he was a lovely kid. Lovely kid. I'm like, oh my, somebody tell me something bad.
You didn't speak to my best mate, Ollie. That's
I know.
I need to give him a buzz.
I need to get onto him.
Oh.
You left Adelaide at the age of 21. So you developed, really well. And pole vault was clearly, you'd made the Olympics and it's not easy for anybody to pack up and move cities. What was that time like for you to come over to Perth?
Yeah, it was interesting. I feel like, so I maxed out all of my abilities in Adelaide. I feel like my coaching was really good and it got me to the point of 5 meters 80 to Commonwealth Games champ in 2018, which was huge. And everything that my coach and I achieved up until that point, huge respect to him and the team that I had in Adelaide at the South Australian Institute of Sport.
Yeah.
rivals to the waist. Yeah, but
I've told you, you're a West Aussie.
I think
now,
waist has
Curtis.
got them covered though, to be honest, at the moment. We've got a bit of a better facility, but yeah, everything in Adelaide, I just feel like I maxed out, and I was like, hey, it's time for a move now. And the coaching staff here in WA, the funding, the facilities, the institute, the lifestyle, everything just kind of like screamed, okay, I need to move there. Yeah. That's what I need to do. Basically, if you were going to be anyone in the sport, you wanted to probably move to Perth and come over here and experience what it's like to be a full-time professional athlete, which I was trying to do in Adelaide. Yep. But we just didn't have the access and the coordination of like a institute of sport where everyone's in-house. So what we have here now is like my coach, assistant coach, physio, S&C, nutritionist, everyone is all on site, and they're all employed. They all have like one obligation, is that's to get me to the best position I can be in. Yeah. And Nina as well, and like a couple of my other training partners. So they also had the ability to travel with me overseas and compete overseas, because that's a huge part of our athletics, because the scene in Australia is not huge. So coming over to Perth was just like eye-opening for me into what like a real professional athlete kind of lifestyle looks like. And I thought I had it covered in the first like couple of weeks.
It seems to be a theme here, Curtis.
Little did I know that it's not smooth sailing the whole way. I thought I'll come over to Perth and like all my dreams and aspirations will come true like that. Bang. Yeah. And it almost did. Like first year, it came to me pretty easy. Like I moved over and I started living with some family friends. They helped me out. They showed me the ropes of like what it's like to live on your own. I moved into a rental, started cooking for myself, all that sort of stuff. I feel like I was pretty well equipped because my mum was a chef. My mum was a great mentor in like trying to teach me as a person on like how to look after myself and all that sort of stuff. I feel like I had that down pat pretty well. But that was also the arrogance in me thinking, I'll be right. I've had a great upbringing. I had like everything that I needed. I'm an only child. Yeah. So my mum gave me absolutely everything that I ever wanted. So I was like, this would be easy. I was born to do this. Yeah. Went overseas, jumped pretty well in my first year, improved my PB from 80 to 87. Wow. And then at that point, it was kind of like, okay, what's the next step? I need to make the next step to 590, 6 meters, because that's what it takes to medal at championships in this day and age. It's ridiculous. But and so then we started pushing past and didn't have the understanding and the background and the years of knowledge to work out at what point is my limit. And we pushed past the limit a few times in training and in recovery and that sort of stuff. And so we were doing too many vaults maybe that I could handle. Okay. My programming wasn't perfect because we didn't have the years of understanding and knowledge and like load periodization, all that sort of stuff that we have now. Yeah. And we pushed past the limit, and that's when the injuries started happening basically first year. So
yeah. And we will cover them because you've had some shockers. Yeah. There was something you said though that I think is really important. You moved over here and you wanted it to happen so quickly, right? Yeah. We are in an age of instant gratification. Yeah. How important was it? And for me, this is a message that anybody who is young is listening needs to know, whether you're an elite athlete or not. How important was it for you to cool your jets and understand that achieving something doesn't happen overnight?
It's not at all an overnight thing. And a lot of people will just flick on the TV every 4 years and there's this new Australian Olympian superstar, like Rowan Browning in 2021. Yeah. He blew away the Australian like public and everything, ran 10:01 in the heat, was going to be like this amazing superstar. And everyone thought, wow, where's he come from? But he ran 10:15 in Adelaide in like 2015 or something. So he's been around. Yeah. And he has just been chipping away, injuries, whatnot, everything. And finally that year he had like this breakthrough year and did it when it counted. Yeah. And everyone sees like, oh, he must have just come overnight. Like, well, yeah. And so it's very important to remember all the people that you see on TV at the Olympic Games, it didn't just happen overnight. We've been working and chipping away for years, and a lot of people's stories are going to be even more intense than mine. But yeah, to get to where we are is such a roller coaster. It doesn't happen overnight. Like there's some prodigies, I must admit, like a lot of young athletes that'll come up and do really well, but then they've got their whole careers ahead of them. Yeah. Like who knows what's going to happen then. And so being in the position I am going into this Olympics, I'm so excited because you don't get these opportunities very often.
Yeah.
And so knowing that I've put in the work for so long to get to this point of privilege that I can go out there and perform at my physical peak that I am now, it's just so awesome, and I just can't wait for it.
That is amazing. Look, it all happened. It was all coming together, right? Success was coming. You were jumping 580 as a 21-year-old. You're a Com Games gold medalist. You're flying, but life has a way of keeping us grounded.
And very grounded.
Absolutely, all puns intended. It's the Diamond League final, 2018. You're on top of the world, and this is where we can sort of put your sport in context, right? Don't forget, you guys are, as we've said, basically 6 meters off the ground. That's like, what's that? That's like 3 Nick Nat Nuis. Like, he's a big dude.
He's a big fella.
So not only do you train, you run up well, you need to nail a takeoff, every little nuance and biomechanics of clearing that bar. But nearly the most important thing is landing safely, which comes after all of that. And then in Brussels, August 2018, you missed the mat. And obviously your landing didn't go so well.
Yeah.
You shattered both your heel bones. Tell me about this time.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I was just coming off a massive high. 2 days before in Zurich, I jumped a PB of 586 or something.
Yeah.
On top of the world, crazy. Thought I was the best thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
You know, this is quite a theme.
Yeah.
And then comes crashing down to earth literally 2 days later in Brussels. Did a warm-up. I was pretty exhausted, jumped 2 days before. Didn't quite have the conditioning under my belt to back up a competition like that. Whereas all the older, wiser guys in the field were taking Zurich 2 days earlier a little bit easier, knowing that the more important comp was 2 days later.
Right.
Here's me, young, dumb.
Yeah. Little go-getter.
Yeah. I'm going to take this by the balls and go beat these guys.
Yeah.
And I did, came top 3 in that comp, jumped 86. And
this is in that indoor makeshift sort of train station, is it?
Train station. So when Nina jumped Aussie record this year, she jumped 491. I jumped there a couple of years earlier, 2018, and was amazing. Best day of my life. And then 2 days later, worst day of my life, where I warmed up. First attempt, opening bar, 5 meters 50. Did not have the legs and did not have the capacity to get over initial bar on my starting pole, which is usually like an easy thing to do. And first jump, went up, took off, full bend in the pole, full invert, upside down, and went off to the right. Wow. And basically clipped the standard, which is the part that holds the bar up.
Yep.
Clipped it, rotated, and just luckily got my feet down first and landed on like the concrete base of like the upright. And just landed straight on my feet and fractured both my heels. And then it was pretty crazy experience doing that in the Diamond League final, which was my first Diamond League final. Oh, actually second. But first one I felt like I was competitive at.
Yeah.
And then got basically wheeled off in a wheelchair from that and had to go to like a Brussels hospital, get x-rays, jump on a plane back home straight away. I was supposed to continue my season. There was one more comp after that, but had to call it quits, fractured both of them. So imagine that. So I had to do the bone healing process for both feet, which is on crutches, alternating a boot. So I was in a boot on one leg and then for a couple of hours, then I'd alternate it. I could walk on my toes, so it was fine for a little bit, but the bone healing process is 6 weeks, as everyone knows, cast up for 6 weeks. So luckily they both healed in 6 weeks, but that was just basically taking me from best physical condition of my life to 0. And we had to start again after that, which is pretty humbling.
One thing you said, you've clipped the stand. I guess in a way, this is kind of lucky you've landed on your feet. No good to shatter both your heels, but this could have been a lot worse, right?
Could have been worse, yeah. And so there's the massive landing pad, which is supposed to land on. In the front, in the back, to the sides. Yeah. And I've somehow missed it all. So I was just obviously so fatigued, couldn't even roll my first pole into the safety of the mat. And just stupidly, ignorantly, arrogantly swung up to vertical, head down. And then luckily, got my feet down and landed on my feet. But could have been catastrophic. You see people wearing helmets in this day and age in pole vault, but it's a pretty dangerous sport.
Yeah.
But that is almost more dangerous in itself, blinding yourself from the external environment a little bit. I think that's a bit unsafe, or each to their own, people that wear helmets, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a pretty dangerous sport.
Am I right in saying that your mum was watching the live stream and the feed cut out or something like that? Or she didn't know, she saw you land, but then...
Well, so it's kind of like, she was in Australia time. They were showing, because it was opening height, they don't usually show on the live stream. They only show like the top heights.
Yeah.
So you're watching the live feed and you can see the pole vault in the background happening, but you follow the zeros and crosses, which is a zero is if you've made the bar, a cross if you've missed.
Yeah.
And it goes opening height, cross, R, and then they put an R next to it, which is retired.
Yeah.
And mum's like, what's going on? Panic stations, alarm bells. It's like 2 a.m. in Australia. Mum's on the phone to everyone, to my only child.
Yeah, this adds a lot more to it. The fact that her little baby Kurtis.
Yeah, so she was pretty distraught and calling my agent, calling my coach, calling me.
Yeah.
And then maybe like, I don't know, after we got the first initial assessment and got my phone back, because they take it away when you go into a competition.
Yep.
And my coach probably just wasn't dealing with it at the time, was just like, shit, what do we do?
Yeah.
And so finally told my mum, like, I'm okay, but I missed the mat. And so she would have just been distraught saying, get back to Adelaide, like, I need to make you some chicken noodle soup, put your feet up, make you feel better. Mum's hilarious like that. So yeah.
Oh, I love it.
But
there's got to be some mental demons coming back from this, doesn't there? Like, what was the road like back? And then to jump for the first time, like, I don't know, for a non-pole vaulter, it feels like, hey, last time I flung myself this high in the air, I shattered both my heels. Like, what were those demons like?
The demons weren't necessarily there for like the reintroduction of pole vaulting after the 6-week period of bone healing.
Yep.
So pole vaulting, people always think that, pole vaulting is just about jumping 5-6 meters in the air all the time. It's not like that. We practice off of short run-ups on really small poles, really short poles, gripping a lot lower, jumping a lot lower bars. And so we started then that next prep off of 2-step. Like you literally do 1-2 and you do a jump over a bar. So it's very small, very safe, very chill. And even then I was kind of like, oh, it's my first jump.
Yeah.
But that's completely fine in a safe environment, training, completely fine. But then you progress back and like you get the gumption back again. You got to be a little bit crazy, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit dumb sometimes and just go with it and do it. But then it was this year actually that I returned to Brussels for the first time since then, or last year, 2023.
Yeah.
And I jumped there for the first time since then, and the demons almost came back a little bit then.
So that's 5 years on.
Yeah, 5 years on. And I look back at exactly the same spot where I did that, and I was like, okay, I'm a way better athlete now. I've learned so much. I know what to do. I know how to clear a bar. It's not that hard, mate. Come on. You're like one of the best in the world. I just come third at World Championship.
Yep.
This is not a good look if you miss the mat again. So got the gumption up, just told myself, you know exactly what to do. Focus on your 2 cues.
Yep.
It's all simple. It's easy. It's fine. Just go through the motion. And then, bang, cleared opening bar, no stress. Demons gone.
Yeah, cool.
Curtains drawn. We're back on. And so, like, I come good from there, which is good. So
this was almost like following a process.
Exactly.
Was that your way through those demons? Was I've got a job to do. I know my process.
It's resorting back to what you know. And so not worrying about past or future or what could happen, what might happen, what has happened. It's all about just controlling what you can control in the moment. And I just said, like, look, you know how to run, you know how to jump. Let's make it easy for yourself and focus on 1 or 2 things. Bang. And just did it. Yeah. So
that's unreal that you're able to overcome that. Like that is, that's huge. Look, so shattered heels in 2018. You did a rotator cuff not long after, then a stress fracture in your back.
Yeah.
You pretty much had to say goodbye to sort of 18 months.
Yeah.
What I want from this series is for people of all backgrounds to take lessons, to learn and to get through hard times, right? And I think that transcends sport. You had what you love, what you'd worked so hard for, and then it's taken away from you for a long time as well, through no fault of your own. What was that like?
Well, not exactly no fault of my own.
Well, you can definitely influence it.
I can influence it, and you can definitely influence how you approach all situations. And so being injured is like a crux point in your career. You can either let it like hit you a lot. You can get down in the dumps, or you can attack it head on and be like, look, this isn't going to phase me. I'm going to come back from this straight away stronger, better, faster, smarter, everything. Whereas me back then, it was that missing the mat was my first major injury, really. Yeah. And it led to this cascade of events of injuries post that, because we rushed back to training after the heels, wanted to get ready again for the next season, did a rotator cuff in my shoulder. And then compensating for the rotator cuff, I started arching my back a lot into the jump.
Wow.
And that led to the stress fracture over like a period of like 5 or 6 weeks. And a stress fracture is basically like bone healing process again. So 6 weeks off entirely from your back. And then it's like maybe another 6 weeks of gradually building back, another 6 weeks of gradually returning to vault and running and that sort of stuff. And so that's a whole season basically missed, which I missed in 2019. And so missed that whole season, come back, humbled from the experience, ready to rock and roll, ready to take the Olympic year by the balls.
Yeah.
And then jump the Olympic qualifier, first comp back, 5 meters 80 in Perth. Let's go. And then bang, COVID hit. And I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So
one thing after another.
So it ended up being more like, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Which sent me straight back down to earth. And those 2.5 years were interesting to say the least, because I felt like that was when most of my learning was done. That's where I turned from a junior athlete to a senior athlete in those 2 years of not even competing, but just learning a lot about myself, watching other people do what I wanted to be doing on the circuit, watching on TV, being like, oh shit, I want to be there. And that's what I want to be doing. And letting that drive me and letting that focus all my attention on what I needed to be doing at the time to get back there. And even then, like, it still took a few learning processes of failure in competitions, seeing my training partner succeed really well to really kick me into gear and be like, this is what I want to be. Seeing other people achieve success and knowing how hard they work to get there, not overnight successes at all.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's what I need to be doing to get back there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And look, we're about to look ahead to Paris, right? But I want to ask you about Tokyo. We know things go wrong in our lives. I suppose it's how we respond to them.
Yeah.
Tokyo didn't go to plan for you. You got through all these hard moments, and then you make a final and you don't record a height. What did you learn from those games?
Yeah, well, it was wild because that year I actually went into it, had already been to an Olympic Games.
Yeah.
Had already been to World Championships, won the Commonwealth Games, but had 2.5 years off, basically, international competition. And so I went into it a little bit arrogant again, thinking, I've done this before. It's not new. This is fine. I've been in the Olympics. Psh, no stress. And then go into it carrying a bit of a back problem, like just progressing back, managing it through competitions. Jump 580 in the lead up in Cairns in like a competition prior to leaving before getting on the team flight to Tokyo. And going into it with a fair bit of confidence, being like, okay, 580 usually mixes it. I can do it. And I thought I'd come back. I thought I'd been in great nick. But I just moved coaches maybe like a year before to Budge. He was my head coach then for like a year. But our relationship was a bit rough, like we weren't really communicating about what I felt that I needed. I thought that I'd been a bit hard done by being dropped, having him dropped on me, pretty just like out of the blue, and then didn't really know how to deal with that. Didn't really know what a coach-athlete relationship really looked like, what a really good, solid one looks like.
Yeah, right.
And so we went into Tokyo, both of us just kind of saying, you're good, right? Like, yeah, I'm good. It's all good. Okay. Trusting in each other, thinking that, okay, well, yeah, I think it's all good if he thinks it's all good.
Yeah.
Not even really talking about anything at all, just going there, hoping to get it done. And hope isn't a strategy for success. Like, you can go into the biggest competition in your life hoping that it goes well. It's not going to go well. If you leave it down to hope, hope's a great thing. You want to be positive and like have a positive outlook on life and upcoming competitions or whatever. But if you leave it all down to hope, you've got no chance.
Yeah.
And so there was only hope in 2021 at the Olympics. And we went out there just got through the qualifying round, jumped 575, which we were pretty surprised with, pretty happy with. Then thought, shit, we got this. It's going to be all good. And then did what I usually do, opening height on the normal pole, and just like didn't have the legs. I was doing stuff in the warm-up, which I don't usually do, trying to be weird and like trying to be cool, trying to act like I had this all covered. Haven't seen the boys who I was competing against for 2.5 years, whereas they're all comfy together. They're all just like chatting. I was there like stressing, like laid down for like 15 minutes like after warm up.
And you don't usually do that, do you?
I never do that, which is so weird. And I thought, I've got to conserve energy. Got to do all this, do that, create stuff out of nowhere.
Yeah, okay.
And then gets to opening bar. My legs are jelly. It's the Olympics. Of course, I'm nervous as hell. I've done stuff that I don't usually do. Feel flat. Don't know what to do, but think, okay, it's opening bar, what I usually do. Bang, almost got sent back on the runway because the pole was so stiff at takeoff. And I was like, shit, that's not normal. Go over to Budge. He's telling me what to do. I'm not listening to him. I'm stressing out. I have no idea what to do in this situation. Go back, bring the standards in. Hopefully that'll work. Bang, same thing. And now you're down to final attempt, opening height at the Olympic Games, biggest comp of your life.
The standards, by the way, is bringing the actual bar closer to takeoff.
Yeah. So if you hit the bar on the way down, your apex was prior to the bar. So you want to bring the bar closer to you so that your apex is over it.
Yeah.
I hit on the way down. Last resort. Budge is saying maybe go down pole because at least he knows what to do. I have no idea what to do. Didn't listen to him. Stayed on that same pole, thought that I could do it, came down the bar again, and no height in the Olympic Games final, which was catastrophic for me at the time. Basically packed my bag, went straight off, didn't talk to any of the boys who are like some of my best mates in the world. And like,
what was the feeling like when you've packed your bags and walked off? Like, is it embarrassment or is it disappointment? Like, can you pinpoint what the feeling was?
Yeah, it was a bit of embarrassment, it was a bit of shame, a bit of guilt.
Wow.
Guilt knowing that I didn't actually do anything, like didn't actually do everything that I could to try and clear that bar. Guilt knowing that I was telling everyone that I was okay when I really wasn't. Guilt probably not communicating with my coach and communicating with my team who were there for me. Ultimately, they just wanted me to succeed and I wasn't telling them what I wanted and how I felt and what was going on. So it was more guilt than anything, and guilt that everyone in my life in the lead up to that point are such huge supporters of me and they've sacrificed so much and like put so much into me. And then I go and do that on the biggest stage ever. And I felt like I just let a lot of people down. I know it's only me that's out there, but a lot of people went through a lot to get me to that point. And yeah, it was pretty wild, that feeling afterwards, going back to the warm-up track, sitting down and watching the Olympic final unfold on the TV or on the big screen at the warm-up track. Mondo having like the best comp of his life, like almost jumping world record, amazing, like all these guys having huge success. And I couldn't experience that for myself. I was just so gutted and couldn't even talk to anyone, couldn't get words out, just sat there in silence for like the 2 hours of the comp. And yeah, that was just really a crux point for me, I think, in my career. And I was like, look, this is not happening again. I came back to Perth after that, or like did a couple of comps in Europe. They were terrible. Came back and sat the whole team down and was like, look, we got to be honest with each other right now. This is how I felt. How do you feel? Be brutally honest with me. They threw stuff at me. I was willing to accept it. They were willing to accept what I thought, feedback. And we just created this amazing environment from there moving forward to get us to the point that where we are now, which is sick. So you almost have to go through those tough times. Unfortunately, I do specifically learn from mistakes.
Yeah.
But those mistakes, don't feel bad about them. Don't ever just like disregard them because you made them, yes, but you got to accept them and learn from them and work on them so that next time you go out there, you're not going to be that same guy. You're a different person and you know what to do next time. So
that's that whole story. I mean, that's heavy. There's a lot in that, and I couldn't help but that's a huge burden to put on yourself when the image you gave us just then when you're walking off that track and you're talking about shame and guilt, like that's a huge burden to carry. What I find so inspiring is what you said afterwards, is that you're able to get something out of this and you've transformed. I've heard you say this once before, literally the words, never again. Like that's not happening again.
Yeah.
And for you to take that experience and transform it is huge.
Yeah.
So I suppose that leads perfectly into this question. What are you chasing?
Ultimately, I'm just chasing, it actually brings up like a video that I watched about Matthew McConaughey, who he chases and who he looks up to. And he says himself in 10 years' time. And so basically he's just chasing like the better version of himself every single day. And so me too, similarly, I like to chase that sort of thing and look forward. And ultimately I just want to be the best athlete that I can be. And it's not necessarily a height. It's not necessarily an achievement or anything, but it's just that pursuit of perfection in pole vaulting, which I'm trying so hard to do, but I feel like I'll never do. Yeah. And because it's such a grueling, such a crazy sport that no matter what you try and do, no matter how many things you throw at it, something's always going to happen. Like there's so many things that could go wrong. There's so many things that could go right. There's so many things that you got to control, got to try and like eliminate when it comes down to the crux point, when it comes down to the championship.
Yeah.
It's like kicking a goal after the siren, or it's like on the grand final to win it, or it's like your stars kind of have to align in this sport to get me where I want to be. And so knowing that I might never even achieve perfection in this sport is pretty cool. Like I love the idea of like never actually succeeding fully.
Right.
But I love the pursuit and I love training and I love bettering myself and doing all the little things, the 1%ers and all of the things like recovery, nutrition, training load, physio, massage, all that sort of stuff to come together and try and be the best that I can. And so I may never get there, but that's it.
It's really cool. We like this concept of perfection. You have just painted a completely new picture of it for me. I think I've seen perfection as a bit dangerous because it's something that I can never achieve. So I'm chasing something that I can't achieve. Yeah. But the way that you've shaped this is what I love. This is like all you're doing is shifting your thinking, is you're sort of using this to do little things differently and to try and...
Don't let it bog you down that you can't get perfection. Still keep chasing it, because the closer you are, the better you're going to be at whatever your pursuit in life is. And so it doesn't have to necessarily be like, I want to jump 6 meters. I just want to do everything that I can possible in my training in my life to get me to the point where I'm in a position to possibly do that.
Yeah.
And if that's everything, and I feel confident that I've done everything possible to get to the start line, to get to where I want to be, then I'm happy.
Well, I suppose in a way you have perhaps slightly addressed this, but here we go, because I finished with the same question throughout this series, but you carry an extra burden of responsibility here, I'm afraid, because of your age and your standing with young people.
Oh gosh.
As you've heard, as we've talked about, for the whole duration of this chat, I'm really passionate about creating a world for young people to grow into where they are enough, because they're forging away in a world which throws fame and stardom at them as like models of success, right?
Yeah.
So the most important question I'll ask you today is this last one. What does success mean to you?
It's a pretty huge question in this day and age, hey, because so many people get so many pictures of success and what success looks like. But you basically just have to work out for you and what it really means for you to succeed and what you really want in your life, in your career. And for me, success doesn't necessarily look like winning the Olympic Games. wild because this year is the biggest year of my life. I'm going to the Olympics. Of course, I'd love to win.
Yeah.
I'm fully open to the fact that there's an amazing pole vaulter at the moment, Mondo Duplantis, jumping world records every year. He's leaps and bounds ahead of us. But if I can go there in the best position of my life and in the best shape of my life, success for me is not always about winning, but about beating myself and being the best version of me that I can possible. Not necessarily trying to go out there and like beat someone or be better than someone else, or because that's almost distracting. That's taking your focus away from being your best self. If you're too busy looking at other people on social media, out in the competition field, at work, whatever, you're not focusing on yourself and how you can get better internally. And so this Olympics for me is all about going out there and doing the best that I possibly can. And what I know works is when I go out there and I have fun, I'm enjoying being amongst the best guys in the world, absorbing the atmosphere, doing every little thing possible to get me in the best position for when it's comp day. That's success for me. That's like, I'm so happy and full at that period of my life that I feel like anything could happen. And so it's almost like success for me finishes at when the competition starts, which is wild because like if I know that I've done everything in the lead up possible, the results are going to take care of themselves. And so no point me going out there and focusing on trying to beat someone else. I'm stoked for them. If they jump their best and they beat me, amazing, because I'm on my best day. And if I'm jumping 6 meters plus in the Olympic final and you beat me, mate, I've thrown everything that I can at you and I've done the best that I possibly can. So whatever happens, happens. And I'll walk away with like a 10th place if I jump 6 meters and do the best that I possibly can.
Do you know, so many of the things that you've said today, particularly about these sort of issues, I think the first thing you say is, I'm not looking outside, I'm looking inside.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the theme.
It seems to be the theme after everything that I've been through, hey?
Yeah.
And so experiencing success as a youngster led me to, be a little bit arrogant, be a little bit self-centered. But that creates insecurities in itself, thinking like, oh, I've got to be this certain person, or I've got to watch what other people are doing, try to be better than them.
Yeah.
And then you realize, no, you can get just humbled by one experience by missing the mat, and then like season over, year over, COVID comes, year over. And then you almost just got to think internally and think, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? And who do I want people to think that I am as a person? And so going out there in Paris after all these experiences that I've had, I just want to be the best version of myself out there. And if I lose, but I've done the best that I possibly can, and I've made everyone feel like I've done everything that I possibly can, and they've done everything they possibly can to get me to that point, I'm happy. I'm a happy man. I'll be happy with whatever happens. So,
mate, it has been honestly such a privilege, but such a blast having a chat with you today. Thank you so much. I've followed this journey over the last few years, but I reckon now you've got a whole country behind you for Paris. Fly high, stay true, as we know you now will, and all the best. We're going to be backing you all the way. Thanks, you so much for today, and look forward to hearing about the journey.
No worries, mate. Yeah, looking forward to this year. It's a big one. Got 5 centimeters to go before I beat my coach. So I've got to get him, and then, yeah, hopefully it all goes well. And yeah, big shout out to everyone in my team. Thank you for having me today. Keep an eye on the Paris Olympics this year. It's going to be huge.
We'll be following, mate. Thanks so much.
Cheers, mate.